It's story time. Chapter 1. The Kamatayan by Mannequin. So this happened back when my family and I were still living in the Philippines. I grew up in Quezon City before we moved here to San Francisco. Back in the 80s, around the period after the People Power Revolution, my paternal grandparents invested in a palaisdaan, fish pond, in Pampanga. They had people running the business, but they had my dad take responsibility in managing it. It was very stressful for him because aside from having a full-time job in the city, he had to travel to Pampanga for the weekends to oversee everything. When my grandfather had the fish pond house built, he imagined it to be a nice lake house type of home, with an area that overlooked the fish pond and the river where the family could gather to eat. But from the beginning, that place had created nothing but bad luck and drama for our family. My uncle was jealous that my grandparents had my dad manage things, so he accused my dad of taking all the profits and not giving a fair share to everyone. My uncle even got my aunts to side with him. This wasn't true at all. My dad was made to look like the villain, so my grandparents had to step in and protect him. I felt so bad for him. He was already under so much stress from his other job and dealing with the NPA. Anyway, back to the fish pond. Let me give a description of the place so you can picture just how isolated the fish pond is from civilization. My family, plus Lola, aunts, and uncles, would visit the fish pond from time to time for family gatherings. To get there, we had to ride a very narrow bangka from a city in Pampanga. Then, it was like an hour boat ride on the river. It started with wide river paths, and then we'd pass some nipa huts and cement homes along the way, but mostly mangrove and forested areas. Then we followed a more narrow path where you are surrounded by mangroves. You can touch the plants as you pass by. About 10 minutes away from our fish pond house was a small patch of land with the weirdest looking plants. Every time we passed by, my dad would always tell me that the workers called that area evil. That's why the foliage looks so ominous. I had always thought he was teasing me. Then we would finally arrive at the docking area. It had this cement wall and was covered in painted crosses. All the walls around the outside of the house were full of these painted crucifixes. The Philippines is a very Catholic country, so at the time, I had never thought anything of it. I figured the workers were just incredibly religious. As if that wasn't enough, the interior of the house was also overloaded with holy icons. Tons of crosses hanging on the walls, statues of Jesus and Mary taking up almost every foot of space, and even inside the bathrooms. Imagine 10 crosses hanging by the staircase, a Santo Niño next to the toilet. It was absolute overkill. As a kid, this never bothered me. I had fun whenever I was at that house. The only time I ever felt uncomfortable there was when I went to the second floor. There was always this feeling of heaviness and claustrophobia. So one weekend, my dad decided to bring my mom along to the fish pond house with him. He had a meeting with the staff, and they had a tendency to get really heated. So my dad thought having my level-headed, calm mother there would help in case things escalated. That night, the meeting was running very late, so around midnight, my mom went to the main bedroom on the second floor to sleep. In the room were 3 beds set parallel to each other. My mom slept on the bed closest to the door. Around early morning, my mom woke up because of a sudden, strong feeling of dread. She was in a half-asleep, half-awake state. When her vision cleared a bit, she saw a tall, dark figure seated on the bed furthest away from her. She figured it was my dad. She looked away to try to clear her foggy mind. When her eyes looked back to the figure, it was more pronounced now. In my mother's own words, the figure looked like the cloaked Kamatayan carrying its scythe. She could not make out its face because it was so dark, and there was so much darkness surrounding it. She again tried to make sure she was not dreaming and what she was seeing was the real deal, so she closed her eyes and opened them again to see the figure still there, looking at her. There was always the thought that it may have been someone playing a prank on her, but all she got that moment was the strong feeling that the presence was evil. She was in fight or flight mode, and her gut was telling her to run away because what she was seeing was not human. So she quickly ran out of the room and found my dad. She told him what she saw, and they returned to the room, but the figure had already vanished. That night, my mom and dad just slept on the sofa in the living room, surrounded by the staff sleeping on their banigs. The next day, my mom asked the wife of the manager about the figure she saw. The wife explained that they are being haunted by that same figure again and again. They had the house blessed so many times, but it keeps returning. That is why they have so many crucifixes and statues of Jesus and Mary everywhere. They believe that the evil spirit is coming from the weird mangrove patch that you pass by before you arrive at the house. My mother saw this as a sign that things were about to get worse. Not long after this sighting, my dad discovered that his staff and the manager had been stealing money from the business. He confronted them about it, and the staff was not happy about this, and they tried to shoot him. My dad survived because his chauffeur shielded him with his body. This place had brought nothing but pain to my family, and my dad decided it was finally time to sell it. But before he did, he burned the mangrove in hopes that it would drive the evil entity away. We don't know if it worked because my dad and Lola lost touch with the people who run it today. So, if you ever stay at a house that is so full of holy objects and you have Santo Niños and Virgin Marys in the bathroom, chances are something evil is haunting that home. Kamatayan, which literally translates to death, is the Filipino Grim Reaper, the symbolic representation of death itself. This particular entity had taken residence at this fish pond house and doesn't seem interested in leaving anytime soon. Perhaps the entity was not pleased with the fact that this family had now taken residence in its dominion and proceeded to curse the family with bad luck. Or maybe it was the family that somehow attracted the entity to the property. What do you think? Thank you for joining me today. If you like what you heard and would like to support this independently run show, consider becoming a member of my Patreon. Visit patreon.com/StoriesWithSapphire to see the different tiers and perks. If you'd like to submit a story, email me at storieswithsapphire@gmail.com. Salamat and good night.